Right now, Earth is spinning at about 1,670 kilometers per hour at the equator. You don't feel it. You don't hear it, but you are moving faster than a jet airplane. Now imagine this. In one instant, the rotation stops. No slowing down, no warning, just a sudden halt. What happens next would be one of the most violent events in planetary history. First, understand something important. Even if Earth stops, everything on its surface keeps moving. Because inertia doesn't disappear. You, buildings, oceans, the atmosphere, all of it continues traveling east at over 600 kilometers per hour. That means cities would be swept off their foundations. Skyscrapers would twist and collapse. Vehicles would be hurled like debris in an explosion. The ground wouldn't crack open. It wouldn't need to. The air itself would become a weapon. The atmosphere would continue racing around the planet at extreme speed. Global winds would exceed anything we have ever recorded. Faster than the strongest hurricanes. Stronger than the most violent tornadoes. The friction alone would ignite massive firestorms across continents. Within minutes, the surface would be unrecognizable. But the destruction wouldn't stop there. The oceans would surge eastward with unstoppable momentum. Mega-tsunamis thousands of meters high would form. Entire coastlines would vanish. Islands would disappear beneath walls of water. Continents would flood and reshape. This would not be a disaster. It would be planetary restructuring. Now suppose the chaos settles. Earth is no longer spinning. What happens next is slower, but even more extreme. A single day would now last an entire year. One side of Earth would face the sun continuously for 6 months. The other side would remain in darkness for 6 months. On the sunlit side, temperatures would climb relentlessly. Oceans would begin evaporating. Lakes would dry up. Deserts would expand across former forests. Meanwhile, the dark side would plunge into deep freeze. Temperatures would drop far below zero. Ice sheets would spread across continents. The atmosphere itself could begin to freeze and fall as snow. There's another consequence most people don't think about. Earth is not a perfect sphere. Because it spins, centrifugal force pushes mass outward at the equator. That's why the planet bulges slightly in the middle. If rotation stopped, that outward force would disappear. Water would gradually migrate toward the poles. Massive superoceans would form in the north and south. The equator would become mostly dry land. Entire ecosystems would collapse. Climate zones would permanently shift. Life would not simply adapt. Most life would vanish. But here's something even more fascinating. Earth's magnetic field is partially influenced by internal motion and rotation. If rotation dramatically changed, the magnetic field could weaken over time. The atmosphere would slowly erode. Radiation levels would rise. Survival would become nearly impossible without artificial protection. Now let's ask a bigger question. Could Earth actually stop spinning? The answer is almost certainly no. The energy required to halt a planet this massive is beyond anything currently present in our solar system. Even a massive asteroid impact would not simply freeze rotation instantly. It would take a force so extreme that the stopping itself might destroy the planet entirely. So this scenario is nearly impossible, but thinking about it reveals something powerful. Earth's rotation is not just responsible for day and night. It stabilizes climate. It shapes oceans. It drives weather systems. It distributes heat around the globe. It helps make life sustainable. And it does all of this silently. Every sunrise you see exists because Earth is spinning. Every storm, every wind current, every ocean tide is influenced by that motion. You are living on a rotating sphere traveling through space at incredible speed, and yet it feels perfectly still. If Earth ever stopped spinning, life as we know it would not survive. Not because of one explosion, not because of one impact, but because the balance that makes this planet habitable would collapse. Sometimes the most important forces in the universe are the ones we never notice. Earth's rotation is one of them. And right now, as you finish this video, the planet is still spinning, silently, steadily, keeping everything alive. There's another effect almost nobody talks about. Satellites. Right now, thousands of satellites orbit Earth based on precise calculations that assume our planet is rotating beneath them. If Earth suddenly stopped spinning, orbital dynamics would change dramatically. Communication systems would fail. GPS networks would collapse. Military and weather satellites would lose synchronization. Global navigation would disappear overnight. Modern civilization would be blind. And that's just the beginning. Earth's rotation also helps regulate ocean currents like the Gulf Stream. These currents distribute heat across the planet. They are one reason Europe is warmer than it should be at its latitude. If rotation stopped, ocean circulation patterns would eventually reorganize. Climate stability would vanish. Some regions would become permanently uninhabitable. Agricultural zones would shift unpredictably. Food systems would collapse, and recovery would not be measured in years. It would be measured in centuries. There's also a biological factor. Life on Earth evolved with a 24-hour cycle. Our sleep patterns, our hormones, plant growth cycles, animal migration patterns, all of them are synchronized to day and night. If one day lasted an entire year, ecosystems would not simply adjust. Many species would fail to adapt. Mass extinction would follow. Not instantly, but inevitably. And here's the final twist. Even if humans survived in underground shelters or artificial habitats, rebuilding civilization would be nearly impossible, because the stable, rotating Earth that made technology possible would no longer exist. If you enjoy exploring real cosmic scenarios and the science behind them, subscribe to Cosmonova, because space is not just fascinating, it is powerful, and it is unforgiving.